I mean, Texas Tech started out strong. I thought that maybe they were gonna kind of blow the game open at one point in the first half, but Kansas did Kansas stuff. Matt McCall, what stuck out to you?
Business as usual for Kansas, right? I mean, you watch them and you watch them in this game. It's like they never get rattled. I've never Texas Tech is one of the places in the country that I've never been in terms of in the environment. Never coached there. Never been to a game there. Been to Rupp Arena obviously a million times. Been to Kansas. Been to North Carolina. All the places in the SEC. Man, it seemed like Lubbock, Texas. That arena gets so loud.
Mm-hmm.
And it just never rattled them. I mean, it was like even when the game got really, really close, it's like timeout. They all go over there. It's just like just unbelievable focus. And it just never seems like they get rattled. And to make threes on the road, I think is a very difficult thing to do. And they did that. They show that they're the best team in the country as of right now.
Ooh.
Big win,
Ooh.
Rob,
Hot,
on the
hot
road.
take.
That's
Well,
not a
it's
hot take.
also
I mean, where are they ranked in the polls right now, according to all the experts?
They're third. They're third, right?
I know.
They are on
Even
Ken
after the
Palm.
Purdue loss.
Yeah, even after the Purdue. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they'll probably jump up to second. Houston's going to end up being first
Okay.
next week when the new polls end up coming out. They are fifth on Ken Palm. It has not yet updated for this win, but I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
Kansas plays great tonight. Let's switch to Texas Tech for a moment because there were a lot of great moments that we saw from them, specifically from a 3-point shooting standpoint. And Isaacs, man, Pop Isaacs. First off, best name in college basketball, one of fantastic, fantastic stuff. But from him to like get the things going on early from a 3-point shooting perspective, what impressed you most about his game tonight, Doster?
I didn't necessarily realize that he was a guy that was going to be a shooter like that coming into this season. Right. I thought
Mm-hmm.
he was more of a kind of a point guard, more of a facilitator, a little bit of a flashy dude. He had kind of that reputation coming in. But he was drilling shots. My biggest issue with Texas Tech has nothing to do with the offensive end of the floor. I'm just not convinced that they have the personnel and the framework to be able to play the kind of no middle defense that made them that kind of made Mark Adams who he was for this group, right? Like the no middle defense, you just kind of it is exactly what it sounds like. Once you get somebody on one side of the floor, you do whatever you can to keep them on that side of the floor. You pre-help, you try to force people into charges. That's why you always see Texas Tech teams take so many charges. And I don't want to say that that's a gimmicky defense, but I think it's something where you can kind of scheme your way into breaking it down, throwing skip passes, kind of going short on the drives, finding people on the weak side of the floor, big playmakers. And if you don't have absolutely elite on ball defenders and guys that could just hawk you, I just don't know if it's something that can work at the level that Texas Tech is going to need it to work to be in the mix for winning a Big 12 regular season title. Because that league, we talked about it the other night, man. There isn't a team in that conference ranked outside of the top 45 in the net or on Ken Palm. I'm doing air quotes here. The worst team in this conference coming in, it's not going to be after tonight, but coming in was Kansas State, who just put up 116 points on the road at Texas.
Yeah, I mean, listen, and we talked about this in the group chat earlier, just about the no middle defense. And I mean, I would say probably 75% of the country doesn't want the ball to get to the middle of the floor. But when you're out there pressuring the ball at the logo, you have to have elite on-ball defenders because once we say this all the time, like when we're playing against a team that wants to pressure all the way out there at the logo, whether I was a head coach or whether I was an assistant coach at Florida, keep the ball in the alley, run some type of middle pick and roll, and then you're going to open the whole floor up. Like you kept seeing Kansas, right? Texas Tech doesn't want the ball to get to the middle of the floor, so Kansas is driving a baseline, and what happens? The opposite wing dives to the dunker spot right at the top of the halo, and they're getting dunks, and that's what happens. But if you're going to hawk the ball at the logo, like you said, Rob, there's got to be elite on-ball defenders, elite, where you can't give up space because you can sprint your 5-man up there and set a ball screen at the logo, and now the whole floor is opened up offensively. And I mean, I know Kansas is a really good offensive team, and I think that defense plays into Kansas's hands, even though they only scored 32 points in the second half. But they had 43 in the first half, and then just they had tremendous poise down the stretch to win the game.
Yeah, like it worked last year. They were the number one team in defense on Ken Palm last year because they had 9 guys on the roster that were all like 6'5" to 6'8" with long arms, super athletic, all of them old and upperclassmen, like 21 to 23 years old. Now you're playing a 7-footer and Daniel Botzer out there. You got a freshman point guard and Pop Isaacs. Like you don't have the pieces that you had last year. And I don't know if it necessarily works with the pieces that you have this year versus what you had last year. Can I ask you guys about Kansas? Because we just had KJ Adams on here. I think that he is the piece that makes Kansas good enough to go back to back, right? Like I love Jalen Williams. Grady Dick's really, really good. Kevin McCullough's like that glue guy, and DeJuan Harris might be a top 5 point guard in college basketball this year. I don't know how many guys I would take over him, but KJ Adams' ability to kind of play that. I don't know. You want to call it a small ball 5, like
no, that's what it is.
5,
that's
like
it. That's what it is.
It's so weird watching Bill Self not have some big 7-foot dude
No
that can get all these
question.
post touches. They have 5 guys around the 3-point line. I'm like, what? I'm not. Am I watching? Is this Bill Self?
It's unbelievable, and it's his ability to adjust to the roster that he has. I mean, that's why he's won a million Big 12 championships. That's why he's only lost 15 home games in 19 years. Like think about that stat. Like that is insane. 15 home games in 19 years. I mean, I think, McCullough's just such an X factor and just the motor that he plays with. And like, you could see that game was important to him tonight, like rightfully so, but he didn't seem like he got caught up emotionally in what was going on in the game. He just played and did what he does and made game-winning plays. So, do I want them to go back to back and be the first team since the University of Florida 06, 07 to go back to back? I'm not rooting against them, but I think they definitely
Yes, you are. Be honest. Like we're
I'm
honest.
not. No, Norm Roberts. I love Norm. I love Norm. Norm's my guy. Norm, even though he yelled at me about going to the offensive glass, Norm's my guy. But I think there's great parity in college basketball this year. So I don't think you can say, hey, they're the clear-cut favorite to win the national championship. I think over the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to have multiple number 1 teams in the country. That would just be my opinion. But yeah, they're going to be right there and no question have a chance to get there.
Yeah.
When you look at the top teams in this league, in this college basketball in general, though, one thing stands out and a common thread is that they've got players who have high IQs that can make plays, right? I think you saw Kansas tonight. They were able to make adjustments. They were able to get Texas Tech defense to shift. You see Purdue play all the time. We talked about earlier, just their ability to have playmakers. They get Zach Edey in ball screen situations where he's able to just dominate down low, but that comes from having like high IQ players. Whereas you watch a team like Kentucky, who at times you're kind of like, is anyone thinking out there when you have the ball? So you talk about those high ranked teams right now. What the common thread is they have high decision making players out there.